Welcome everybody to this Channel Vision Magazine webinar with New Horizon Communications, NHC, the communication stack provider. In this presentation, we're going to learn how technology advisors can make more money by accessorizing that thing that they do so well. I'm your moderator, Brady Hicks, the managing editor for Channel Vision Magazine, and joining us are your hosts for today. First of all, we have NHC partner and vice president, Marketing and Business Development, Glenn Nelson. Glenn, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brady. Looking forward to this.
I am as well, Glenn. It's always a good time. We also have the Vice President, Managed Services, Brent Lucas. What's going on, Brent?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Pleasure to be here.
Before I turn everything over to you guys, I want to remind everybody that NHC and Channel Vision are offering a $100 Amazon gift card to one lucky attendee that sticks around through the entire presentation. So you are going to want to stay with us here. I also want to let you know that NHC created this webinar to provide you with information. So if you have any questions, you can go to the Q&A icon tab on the bottom of the page there. We'll present those questions once the presentation is finished. All right. I think they've heard enough from me, Glenn. I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Brady. And folks, we've got a lot of good information and very valuable, I think, sales-wise information to convey to you. But we're going to be as brief as possible today. So if you could, Brent, let's bring up what we're going to discuss today. Okay, so for those of the folks out there listening that are not aware of who New Horizon Communications NHC is, we're going to do a very quick, brief overview of that. And we'll get right into the program. We'll talk about access, the forecast, and the dilemma with access in our business. We'll talk about some of the accessories that we think are very important: wireless backup, fixed wireless access, some of the carrier-specific accessories that are out there that we can sell to our existing base as well as to new customer opportunities. And we'll also talk about our new product for managing aggregation. It's our STACKguard service. So next slide, please. So brief overview of NHC. We've been around since '02. I'm one of the co-founders of the company. We're privately held. We are both a nationwide service provider of everything to do with the communications business in the US as well as in Canada. We're headquartered in Concord, Mass, up in the Boston area. We also have network operations and engineering centers in Rochester, New York, and Fort Myers, Florida. We really are proud of the fact that every single person that is customer facing is 100% US stateside support. We don't do any of the overseas stuff. It's part of what we try to do in terms of conveying the absolute best experience for both our partners as well as our customers. And that's something that we focus every minute of every day on. We back that up with a user-friendly portal. And we also kind of combine that with what we call our stack solutions. So on this back screen, you'll see in the background 3 sort of stacks. And that's how we kind of explain all the solutions that NHC actually offers. It begins with the red stack being access. And that is all things access. So we have more than 100 carrier wholesale relationships. And this gives us full access to buying the host of services available from these carriers all across the US and into Canada. We're also, because we are such a very large buyer and aggregator of these services, we're on the advisory boards for all the major tier 1 providers. We have run top awards, top recognition awards for both the quality of working with them from an operations level as well as for our sales performance. So that's everything to do with access, and that's terrestrial. That could be even POTS lines, that could be wireless services, that could be satellite services. And then the next level is our overlay. We have our own switching infrastructure for offering UCaaS services, and we provide anything that's sort of over the internet services, SIP services, hosted, UCaaS, SD-WAN, et cetera. And then the top tier is our managed services, which we will talk a little bit about today as well with our new product. And those are things that NHC is managing on behalf of the customer. And those are obviously the stickier things, the richer things, the things that will last the longest in terms of establishing a very long-term relationship with the customer. So next slide, please. So let's talk first about access. That's what this is all about. Access is the king of what we sell in our channel. It certainly is the majority of what NHC sells to our technology service brokers, our partners, and it's what customers seem to want to buy from organizations like us, communication service providers. And just to give you an idea of what some of the numbers look like, I mean, most people listening here, I'm sure the bulk of the commissionable revenue that you derive is from access. So the average broadband downstream speed has increased more than 30 times since 2010. And the forecast for continued growth in this area, it may not sound like much. Dedicated internet access about 4% and broadband about 3%. But you have to look at what the sheer numbers are when we start talking about these percentages. Our government tracks broadband for a variety of political reasons very accurately. We're all, as a communications provider in 50 states, NHC supplies monthly information on broadband connectivity in every state. So the government does a very good job of counting. And that's to prove the percentage of broadband saturation throughout the states. So in a combination of both residential and commercial broadband, there's about 115 million commercial and residential circuits that were installed in 2023. I mean, that are the base that was in 2023. So if you just take 3 or 4% of that, then you can get a sense that what actually happened in terms of new sales in 2022 was 4 million circuits over 2022 and 2023. So you're talking about millions of circuits. Even if half of that, make it 70% residential, okay? It's still a massively large number for our channel to be able to sell. So yeah, the growth rate is not going to be, like a new product, but it is certainly going to continue to be probably the most valuable product revenue-wise that we offer and that you folks sell. And that's what you have to think about. Now, the problem with this is there's a potential dilemma. If you go to the next slide, please. Because as bandwidth speeds have increased, so we go back to that 2010 number, the pricing has dramatically gone down. And in fact, the pricing has gone down by, translated over the last 4 years alone, there's been about an 80% drop in price if you kind of compare price to bits per second. Okay, so that'll give you an idea of how much more you have to sell next year in order to make the same revenue you were making this year. And that is the dilemma with access. Okay, the demand is insatiable, and thankfully for our channel, there are so many more resources to selling broadband. We're selling fixed wireless access, which we're talking about today. We're selling broadband. We're selling fiber. They are now reconfiguring the broadband so that it will punch out more and more through hyperfiber coax and other mechanizations. The cable companies are going to be offering 1 and 2 gig full symmetrical speeds. So all of this is coming our way, and it gives us an opportunity to not only sell new to our customers, but to go back and sell into our customer base and offer them more bandwidth, more speeds, et cetera, a better story to go back to them and say, hey, I can give you twice what you have right now for the same amount of price, and give you the opportunity to sign up for another, 2 or 3 years. So there's a lot of opportunity there in terms of this, but there is a problem that price keeps falling down. I don't, use the old expression race to zero. It's probably never going to get to zero, but it is falling down because of the intense competition brought on by 5G as it evolves, brought on by now the cable companies fighting back against 5G with more and more offers, and brought on by the tremendously huge number of new fiber providers that are offering fiber to support not only 5G, but to also sell on a wholesale basis. So kind of with that, if you could bring up the next pop-up real quick. How do we increase that revenue per unit that's so important for our business? How do we make sure that you guys don't have to work twice as hard selling these services because the price is now half of what it once was? And the answer, very simply, that we believe is selling accessories associated with these strategic products that you're now selling. If you go to the next slide, please. So the answer for us and what we're going to talk about today would be 4 things that we see as really a great opportunity to not only sell new to selling to your current access sales you're making right now, but also to be able to go back into your base of customers and have a real story to go back and say, hey, by the way, I wanted to show you this. You have a few moments. Let me show you what I can do with this. It'll be very simple. So these 4 areas are wireless backup service. And yes, this has been around for a number of years, but we now have a dramatically cheaper alternative to this that we're very excited to roll out today. Fixed wireless access. It can be more than an accessory because you could be using this also, for instance, as 2 hot cuts. But it certainly is something that we're, been mega excited about for a long time because of the rollout of 5G. Network specified security options. These are things because of our very strong relationship on the wholesale side with carriers. Carriers are also adding their own accessories that we can buy on a wholesale basis and offer to you folks and to customers. And there's a number of these options. We're going to cover a few just to kind of give you an idea what these are all about. And then our STACKguard service. And really what this is all about for us is when you put in that $125 broadband circuit and the customer says this is a mission critical application, we're saying, well, again, what if we were to add some security or add some backup features? Because if that thing really is mission critical, these are simple things that you could add that are not an arm and a leg in cost, but at the same time help you to add your overall revenue number for that customer and also tie the customer more strategically to working with you and working with NHC, by having a more strategic service. Next slide, please. So fiber cuts are mission critical circuits that are way up. There's a problem right now in the West Coast where people are stealing copper, and unfortunately, what's happening is the copper is also on the same pathways as the fiber, and so we are facing a lot of fiber cuts in the West Coast, particularly California. So one of the things that we would like to say here is if the application's mission critical, or even remotely mission critical, meaning it would be a real problem if it went down, please look to backing up that service. It's just that's got to be done. So we have a very simple 1G pooled backup plan, very inexpensive. Because we offer this plan with multiple underlying carriers, we have absolute ubiquity of the service. We cover every part of the United States. There's really not going to be any hollow points for this type of service. So our standard is 1G pooled. The customers can pool all their sites together, and that enables them to very rarely ever have to pay an overage charge. And we offer customizable plans based upon, let's say, the customer's requirements. Maybe if they're down for a few hours, it's more than 1G. We can certainly offer 2G, 3G, 5G. We're quite flexible in that regard. We also supply the customer with usage reports through this, through our customer portal called MAP. That gives them their daily usage and also the usage to plan per month. And our new wireless router provides next generation network management services associated with this. So it's a very high-end router. But here's the good news, folks. Go to the next slide, please. This service is now down to $39.95 a month. 2 weeks ago, we were charging $62. So in this time of inflation, and we all know we're paying more for everything, this is a chance for NHC to offer to you folks an opportunity to cut the price, get some excitement with the customer, and sell something that we know the customers want. This is now cheap enough that you kind of want to make this an automatic when you sell a broadband or a DIA and ask the customer to say, I don't want it, because this is priced to definitely go. Next slide, please. The next area we're going to talk about is fixed wireless access. Look, this has been around now for a few years since 5G started to be rolled out. I will say that C-band technology rollout is taking place. It's still probably not going to reach its maximum until sometime next year. We think the saturation will start to approach what we see with 4G in 2025. But here's the beauty of it for us. Again, because we leverage our carrier relationships, we have the most 5G coverage of anybody pretty much in the industry because we can mix and match 5G across the country from multiple carriers. And that's really transparent to the customer. And that's an advantage of dealing with stock communications provider like NHC versus, say, going to an individual wireless provider. So where are the hot things we see for this? Well, customers requiring 2 full-time connections. Let's say you're an SD-WAN shop and you want to have 2 hot cuts going all the time. Wireless is perfect for that. Obviously, new construction. And I think the thing that we're really excited about here is that there's been 2 limitations we've been having with 5G rollout. One was obviously the availability, and that's continuing to get better. But the second one was not having an unlimited plan. We believe that fixed wireless access needs to be unlimited plans. And now we have 2 unlimited plans available from 2 different carriers. So we are super excited about that. And with our ability to mix and match these, transparent to the customer, it gives us some great edge. So let's go to the next slide, please. So now we're able to offer on 2 different carriers, 2 different unlimited plans. One would be a 100 meg service for $117.95 a month. The other one's a 200 meg service for $167.95. And then the other carrier is a little bit different in that they offer a cheaper option of $114 for the standard, and that gives you about 250 Gs of gigabit of priority. It's not going to turn it off, but it may potentially, if there's traffic in that area, may potentially slow it down a little bit. And then premium, which they wouldn't really, they're going to give you well north of 500 gigs. So these 2 plans we think are very effective plans. It really changes the whole picture finally for 5G. And it gives us, I say, maximizes the coverage. Unlimited 5G, FWA, in wherever it's available in the country, NHC is going to have it. Next slide, please. And lastly, I'll get to, on my side, I'll get to the carrier-specific services. So if you've seen the news in the last couple of weeks, and just a fact from another consulting firm, about 25% of all the cyber attacks are ransomware, and these are always from outside players, and they're always after both your data and money to get unransomed. And our underlying carrier partners are coming through because they too want to offer additional ARPU services. And these services can range from very simple things like we've been talking about so far. In other words, reactive security services or simple proactive security services to very comprehensive proactive programs using their NOC centers. So the basic services tend to be tied to the owned access, so it tends to be tied to an individual carrier. But some of the complex services can be carrier agnostic. It depends upon the services that we can provide from the carrier. But again, where our advantage comes, just like with the wireless world, where we can blend multiple types of these carrier services together from tier 1 providers and offer really transparently to the customer. Maybe the customer's got 10 locations and we've got 5 different carriers that are underlying. We can offer 5 different types of programs like this for it, completely transparent to the customer, and in some cases even portal access as well. So to talk further about our new wireless network security product, as well as DDoS, I'm going to turn it over to our expert here from NHC, Brent Lucas. Brent, take it away.
Thanks, Glenn. So as you had mentioned before, as the threat landscape has, continued to evolve, we see customers understand a need for more options. And we've heard from the carriers, these tier one providers, that they've pulled back a little bit from wanting to be, that MSP type solution for customers, and they're back to focusing on access, focusing on what they do best, which leads to some of these features and applications we're talking about today, which is really focusing on how to provide those solutions, at the access level. So looking at the first example here, option we have here, which is the network security for wireless. So this is a per circuit solution, and there's a couple of different levels of the solution. The standard provides what is more of I don't want to call it set it and forget it, but there's not a lot of manipulation involved with the standard. You enabled it, and then it provides the malicious website blocking. It's a predefined set of parameters that the network firewall is using from the provider. Ransomware protection, phishing, and anti-malware, and that's $16.99. So that's more of a very standard. You enable that, and you're off and running. The premium provides a little bit more configuration management, allows you to add things like specific allow and block lists for content and URL filtering. So you have an NHC managing on the customer's behalf. We have the ability to be a little bit more granular in the control of those firewall features. So that's a fantastic a new option. So as we continue, Glenn and I talk to our providers constantly. We're constantly looking at ways, what other additions we can make to this. So we're focused on the wireless today from a network security standpoint, but there are also wired options as well. So firewall features on DIA, for example, is something else that we'll be talking a lot more in the coming months. We continue these conversations with the carriers, so we can provide those value add services on top of the access. The second one we have on the slide here is DDoS. So I'm sure everyone has heard, over the course of the last several years, there have been large DDoS attacks against customers that have cost significant amounts of money. The carriers are providing a couple of different options here. One is where it is really truly just a circuit base. So you're going to have to enable that DDoS protection on each individual circuit. That is considered reactive in the fact that you do have to call the carrier to initiate the protection, the filtering of the traffic to stop the DDoS attack. There are more proactive options out there, and those options can also be carrier agnostic. If the customer has the right parameters on their network, for example, they have their own public IP space, they can do some routing via BGP. It can be completely carrier agnostic, and most tier one providers, or I'll say all tier one providers, have solutions where they can actually take all of it into their DDoS protection software. They can, in the event of attack, not only will they scrub that traffic, and return the clean traffic, but they'll also proactively do it. So they're monitoring the network at all times, looking for any signatures of attack, and then taking action, if and when an attack is identified. So this is one that we're really excited about. I know this. We've spent a great deal of time developing this. I'm very excited about it, and that is our managed aggregation service called STACKguard. What we're going to talk about today is SG1. We were very purposeful in naming that because we do intend on layering additional capability onto the STACKguard product as time goes on. But this first step is a really important one, and that is for a couple of very important reasons. One is as Glenn mentioned before, we are an aggregator, and we have a lot of access out there. What's a value add service that we can provide to our existing customers as well as new customers, and that is the proactive monitoring of those circuits and automated event notification, as well as resolution. So even today, right, we obviously work with our with our customers when there's an issue, and we work that issue to resolution when customers come to us for access. What this really does is, it provides a very quick, proactive notification to the customer that there is an issue and we are working on it. And that starts that communication earlier. It provides that service level objective that we're going to hold ourselves accountable to, and get the customer a faster response times, and again, keep them informed throughout the process. And we'll talk about the process here on the upcoming slide. I do want to mention the last bullet here. This is available on NHC provided circuits or customer BYOB circuits. And you see, we'll flip to the next slide so we can kind of talk about a little bit of that. So how we accomplish STACKguard is we use ICMP ping monitoring to monitor a static IP on the far end of that circuit. So whatever a device has that assigned static IP, we're going to ping that device. And if while we're monitoring that device, if there is unresponsiveness from that device for a predefined threshold, we're going to automatically generate a ticket. That ticket will go out to the customer. That ticket goes directly to our NOC, service assurance team, to start the process of looking at, is it NHC equipment? Is it customer owned equipment? What is the scenario? And start to take the appropriate action. We are going to open a ticket with the underlying carrier for anything that where we are managing the circuit on the customer's behalf. If a customer just has their own access and they want us to monitor it, we're going to alert them of that outage. But of course, if we're not managing the circuit on their behalf, they would then take that next step. So again, for SG1, we were very purposeful in using ping, because ping allows us to be very circuit and equipment agnostic. When we start talking about other layers of STACKguard, it might include things like SNMP and other protocols where there's more variables involved there. This allowed us to launch a very proactive solution that we can put across any platform, really, and it allows us to offer it across a very broad scope. So very, very quick, easy diagram here of what I just discussed looks like. So you've got a customer premise, and we've got a static IP here at the customer premise that we're going to monitor. That STACKguard monitoring, that ICMP traffic, we're just basically pinging the device. And we ping that device at least, I believe it's once a minute. And after a predefined threshold, if we're not seeing responses from that device, that from the NHC monitoring system, and this system monitors from a couple of different places. There's more than one node that are sending ping requests to the device. If that threshold is met for a down condition, the alert generation happens. The ticket creation is automated to our NOC. That then spins that ticket out to the customer. The customer can respond directly to that ticket through the email that is sent. So the communication can happen directly within the email. You don't have to open a portal or go to a ticket. You can respond directly, to the email in the event that there is an outage. And last but not least, we have visibility through our map portal to the availability of the circuits. So there's some information redacted on the screen. We just really wanted to show, so anyone who, I don't know if anyone is familiar with MAP, but this is the equipment and services tab. And here you can see we've got two circuits. We've got one bring your own broadband circuit here And this green dot will tell you that the monitoring service is up and the device is reachable. If you came in and you saw one of those dots was red, we would be already troubleshooting and identifying an issue with that circuit. On top of that, within this month, every one of these circuits, when you're in MAP, if you click on the circuit itself, it will give you some very basic stats on the circuit, the round trip time, so any latency that might be happening, and the packets sent and received by the monitoring system. So you can see if there's any packet loss in that ping, in that constant ping happening, as well as see if there's any latency issues with the circuit. Those graphs will be available. You'll be able to manipulate the time frame of those graphs. So if you want to look at the last 8 hours, or the last 7 days, you'll be able to see that in the MAP portal, which again I think is another great enhancement that the team has worked on. And the best part is this is only $9.95 a month for per circuit for the customers. Again, a lot of existing customers. We have already seen traction on that from existing customers who wanted this level of support, as well as new customers. With having just launched this a few months ago, we're seeing a lot of traction with this product. And we're already seeing the benefits of that with some of our customers as well, who have seen the proactive nature of the ticket creation, and moving quickly to resolution. We're not waiting to react. We are proactively taking action on those items.
If I could do a quick summary, then thank you, Brett.
Sure.
Just again, folks, technology advisors, all of our broker customers out there, our partners, just think about it like this. You're selling your broadband connection, you're selling your DIA. Okay, now what we've talked about is how about backing that up, because it's mission critical, with something as inexpensive as $39.95. Maybe you want to make one of those, maybe you want to add another hot connection with an FWA. Okay, that's certainly available. Maybe you have a wireless service which you want to have some of the security on. Maybe you want to have DDoS incorporated in that. And then look at what we're offering now with STACKguard, because we typically serve a multi-location type customer, and you're selling access across those locations. Think about a lot of our businesses today. IT staffs are very skinny in these companies. And so now, rather than having to drive somebody out there or try to train someone who might be, focused on a retail application like you're running the cash register, okay, now what you can do is we're going to tell them that their location on Main Street is down, and we're going to already have been working the ticket, rather than having them to proactively call us and go through the whole process of putting in a ticket. That's a huge savings. In addition to that, we're going to be able to do some diagnostic things to better help us to resolve that, mitigate that repair problem, get it up and going as fast as possible. So all of these things are simple dollars and cents add-ons. It'd be very hard for a customer nowadays to say no to, given the fact that they're paying half as much as they used to for that DIA, a broadband service.
All right. Great stuff, guys. Thank you so much for the presentation. Before we get to the questions, did you want to remind our attendees how they can reach out to you for more information?
They can actually connect right here to use the QR code here. And that's probably the easiest method. Or certainly they can communicate back through their NHC channel manager. So either one of these works just fine.
All right, perfect. Let me remind everybody once again that you can contribute to the discussion right now by clicking on that Q&A tab on the bottom of your screen. A few questions have come in. Glenn, let me start with this one, I think. In the beginning, you listed a lot of really great accomplishments that NHC has had, but at the base of it, why is NHC the communication stack provider?
Because we offer the the largest amount of services that are available in this communication segment, both US and Canada, and that we're able to do all of this under our super billing program, under our great customer and partner portal. We offer for our partners the most competitive commission structures, and an overall emphasis from day one in the last nearly 23 years now, that we focus on the entire experience from the time you work with us to get something priced from a partner's perspective, to the time that it's installed, to the time that is billed, and that we're there to fix it if it breaks. And that experience portion for both our customers and also for our partners gives us probably the lowest churn rate in the business, and we're very proud of that. So the focus overall on the experience is our most important thing. And as you can see by today, technology comes and goes, but it's how well our partners work with their customers and have tools that their customers want to buy from them that we can offer to our partners and to our customers.
Okay, great. Just to clarify, so the aggregation is throughout the US and Canada, correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. Why is selling IP access a pathway to upstack solutions?
Because in order to get to an overlay product, or in many cases the managed services, access is the key, and also access is the main entranceway for everything that our channel typically sells to a customer. It begins with access. Years ago, it began with a POTS line and maybe an internet connection. Now it begins with various types of broadband or DIA or FWA service, and seeing how well it is, seeing how competitively priced it is, how well it's project managed, if it's complicated, has lots of locations, how well it goes in, how well it's billed, how well the customer is able to work with us to make sure, for instance, any repairs are resolved. That's all about making it extra special. But it all starts with getting that initial access sale in.
All right, I think this person wants to pick your brain a little bit here, Glenn. So should they sell these solutions to existing customers? When they do, should they use installed circuits or just maybe for the new circuit sales?
Oh, I would recommend both. So, one of the problems that we've had in the past is not a problem, but it's sort of been the condition, is that if you've sold a broadband circuit or a DIA, several years ago, you're focusing on your next sales and you're focusing on new things, and that's all great because you got to keep bringing in new revenue, as you know. But you've got to have something to go back to your base, because if you're not working your existing customer base, somebody else probably will. So you want to make sure that you can go back to that customer and say, hey, I've got a new upgrade for this broadband. We just have to switch out your router or whatever, or perhaps nothing. We just have to activate it. But I'd like to show you these other accessories that we could sell here that could add some further value and protect that circuit better. And so I definitely recommend going back to the customer base and looking at your accounts and seeing if there's some way for you to go back and tell a story. I think any one of these makes a lot of sense. All of them make a tremendous amount of sense. And then obviously for new sales, I would just start including these in the quotes.
All right, sorry about that. Now, you mentioned specifically accessories. This person wants to know if the customer would experience any downtime installing accessories.
Brent, you want to take that one?
So for existing, yes, for existing customers, no. I mean, when it comes to the firewall, functionality, the security functionality, that there should be no downtime. Now, the more complex services can require more conversation, right? There's some configuration management that happens on that piece. So you want to make sure it's right out of the box. If there's anything that they need to allow, right? There are certain things about when you start talking about URL and content filtering, and you really do have to have a conversation with the customer to ensure that, but there's no change in the circuit itself, the access itself. The carriers are layering that service on top. The pathway is already there for them. Right? They're adding these services, at the POP. So there's no circuit change necessary in that regard. So the small, I guess, concern there would be just the configuration itself. Is it right? Now, when we talk about DDoS, that again is a little bit different. The reactive piece, same thing. They're just really enabling that on the circuit and saying, hey, if you've got a problem, you call us and we'll take care of it. The proactive, the more circuit agnostic or carrier agnostic options, that does require some testing. It might require a maintenance window to do some testing to make sure that you can redirect the traffic in the event of attack. A little bit more of an impact there, but it would all be planned, right? You would plan that out. You would have your test plan and your maintenance window all set up.
When you go to the proactive side, it can go, and of course that could be a very feature-rich sale for you. That's why we say it starts at $1,000 for that business. That's not really a simple accessory. In fact, we use one of the underlying carriers. That's one of our big carrier partners. We use their service, and that could be thousands of dollars a month because you're gonna use them in the case of the DDoS attack, and you're gonna work with their NOC center, and their NOC center is monitoring what's going on with your operation. So that's a little bit different. But in general, if you look at at wireless backup, FWA, some of the simpler stuff, and certainly our STACKguard stuff, these things are not going to be intrusive of the customer's business. They're not going to bring this. Doesn't require a rip and replace, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, STACKguard is a great example, Glenn. Right, we're enabling that feature, the functionality. That we have the mechanism already in place, and there is no service impact, to the customer when we enable that service, new or existing.
Okay, great. So one of you mentioned how providers are kind of shifting away from offering managed services. Would you be able to speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in a couple of the conversations we've had very recently with, like say, specifically one of our tier one providers, they have stated that they're very purposeful in the intent to, get back to what they do best, which is access, and be able to provide these value add services on the access. There was a time where everybody was trying to get into the MSP game, SD-WAN. They wanted to own your network. They wanted to do everything. A lot of those providers are finding that very challenging, and they're starting to walk back from that a little bit and focus more on the access. Let the NHCs, do that MSP stuff, right? Let us take care of that. That's what we do well. And I think some of these large providers have found it very challenging. I think both from a delivery standpoint, but also from a customer experience standpoint. Some of them we're not getting the best scores when it comes to customer service. So, like I say, I think that's why we're seeing a little bit of a walk back. They're not walking away completely, but they're certainly not pushing like they were a couple of years ago. And that's also, I believe, a massive opportunity for an HC. I know we're not here to talk about those things today, but I think that's also, with some of the things we've launched in the last couple of months are more robust security offerings at the edge, more SD-WAN offerings, and we'll continue to add services on there in the next couple of months as well. So that's our opportunity. As they pull back, we can move right in.
And that's a good point. And I think it's very good for the channel, and it's very good for us in general that the big tier one communications carriers have realized what they do well, and that is distribution and of access. And that anything that involves beyond that involves a lot of value add and a lot of customization. It's like trying to make fancy French food with elephant arms. It just doesn't work. They're not able to break it down to the level for our channel. They might be able to do it on an enterprise basis, very customized for the Fortune 50, but not in our channel. And that's where we come in, and us and our partners come in to being able to offer some of those additional value-added services. And even us, we're going to be, we're careful in terms of how far we go into that security stack, we want to focus on the things that we know we do very well: SD-WAN, security associated with that, everything to do with access, everything to do with overlay.
And that's a great analogy. Kind of made me chuckle there. So network security for wireless solutions, Brent. You were talking about that a little bit. Could you talk about some of the differentiators this person wants to know?
I might need a little bit of clarification. The differentiators between the two levels of service, or
I think I mean and again, this was submitted. I would assume they mean as far as like NHC versus maybe other guys that are out there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, Glenn had mentioned earlier, it's our ability to leverage the more than one provider. The both wired and wireless, security that you can get directly from the carriers, like what we discussed today. They're all doing some level of that, right? They're all kind of finding that little niche for that security on the access itself. So I think what our true differentiator is, because you could go get the service directly from those carriers, right? You could do that. What we do very well from an aggregation standpoint is say, well, if carrier A is available at 10 of your 15 locations, but carrier B has the other 5, we can get that solution. We can get you to that all-in solution. It may be from 2 different providers, but we're going to manage that relationship, and we're going to manage that configuration to get you what you need. That's the true differentiator. Same with just wireless access. The FWA and backup plans that Glenn talked about earlier. Our ability we can get you the service you need, whether that takes a couple of carriers to do. Right, we're going to get whatever you ask for. And then we're going to take care of, we're going to put that all in one bill. We're going to make sure that it's as smooth and easy. If you did go directly to one of those carriers, you don't have that option, right? You don't have that same experience that you can get with us.
All right, great. So while I've got you, Brent, this person wants to know specifically about STACKguard. Are there any kind of equipment installation needs that you need to know about, or when you subscribe to STACKguard?
So because we are using ICMP, we're using ping. We have a best practice guide that we send out when we install, or when STACKguard is part of the solution. So if it's a customer-owned piece of equipment, we do need to be able to ping that static IP. So if the customer has a firewall, is a good example. They may have very specific access lists on that firewall, and they'll need to allow ICMP from the specific IPs from which we monitor. We have an East and a West Coast node. We're monitoring from both nodes at all times for all circuits. So there's a best practices guide that we provide that just lets a customer know, hey, this is what you're going to, if this is a customer-owned edge, this is what you need to do to ensure we can monitor the service. We also, in the process, have baked in internally that we're going to test that before it goes live. So we have a step in the automation process that before we send anything to Bill, before we start generating tickets, we're going to test that. Can we reach that IP? If we can't, then the project manager will make sure they communicate with the customer and say, hey, we tested there. Seems like there may be an issue reaching your device. And we get that squared away prior to the service going live and any alerting, any tickets being generated. So yes, there are that requirement, because we need a static IP. There is a requirement for the customer owned equipment that we can indeed reach that IP.
But there's not a requirement. This is a virtual service. So we're not putting a device out there. There might be an NHC device out there already to support our other services that we're providing. And we can also use the customer's device, providing that we can get the IP access. But it's not like we're putting out a specific thing for STACKguard. It's a software service.
Okay, perfect. And just a couple more questions here. We're almost at the end, guys, and I appreciate your patience. And thank
Thank
you,
you for the
everybody.
questions. It's this is
Yeah,
great.
It's been a
fantastic.
lot of great interactions for sure. So Brent, this person wants to know about the StackGuard map portal. They want to know if it's browser based that they can take it on the go.
Yes, that is that is a browser. The screenshot there is from the map. That is actually a screenshot from the browser from the web UI. So the map portal, when customers are onboarded, for anyone not familiar, when they're onboarded, they do get the login information to map. There's a lot of other screens in there. I see that was just a screenshot of the equipment tab to show that you can see your circuits and you can see the availability of those circuits when you subscribe to StackGuard. That's the only time you'll see those little green dots in there is if you subscribe to the StackGuard service, and as well as having the visibility to. And I apologize, I didn't have the screenshots today to show the visibility to the latency and the packet. The packet sent and received from the monitoring service to kind of give you an idea of what the behavior, the health of the circuit is during that time. But yes, it is browser based and it's all available once subscribed to the service.
All right, sounds great. And really, just one more question, but I think it's the perfect way to kind of wrap everything up. There's a lot of conversations that have to be had here. And Glenn and Brent, I think this person kind of wanted to pick your brain as far as like maybe any tips for starting those conversations that need to be had.
Well, I think the simple thing on the access side is simple questions like, what happens if this goes down? So that's the obvious question in terms of providing 1G, pooled backup. And then, would you like to have this monitored? And and again, for $9.95 and $39.95, I think those are the two simplest ones. And then, do you have a need for both wireless access and terrestrial access, right? So that's a conversation. Perhaps they're looking at an SD-WAN application. They want to run two HOTS. Perhaps they can't get a terrestrial service delivered to a location. We might be able to do that with 5G FWA. But the first two for me, the easiest ones are you probably should back this up. I got a great service for you. And secondly, we could also monitor this thing proactively for you for $9.95 a month. And we're going to tell you when it breaks, and we're going to be able to automatically begin fixing it by the time you get contacted. And you're going to be able to get reporting on the performance of that service.
Yeah, and I would say I would also add, Glenn, you mentioned this earlier. I mean, I think getting the message out there that we're looking at a significant cost reduction for what we were for our services, and both the backup and the FWA based on some changes. With the teams have worked very hard to get us to a better place, working with the carriers and our manufacturers for the hardware to get us to a what I believe is a very, very competitive rate, and we're really, really excited about that. So getting the word out there about those new lower rate plans and the options for unlimited FWA, I think is I'm really excited about that. It's fantastic.
And these are not specials; these are the new rates. So it's not like order by midnight tonight. These are the new rates, and we've cut the we've gone from about $62 and change to $39.95 on the wireless backup, and we've gone from probably north of $240 a month down to about you see the pricing $120 to $130 a month for the FWA. So very excited to be able to offer these in the inflationary times that we seem to live in now.
All right. I think that's going to do it. Glenn Nelson, NHC's partner and VP, Marketing and Business Development, as well as Brent Lucas, Vice President, Managed Services. Thank you both so much for the time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Very much appreciate it.
Okay. And as far as the $100 Amazon gift card, the winner will be contacted after the webinar. Also, a reminder, if you missed any part of this presentation or any of the other ones in the past, you can go to channelvisionmag.com, find those presentations on demand. Also, CBX, and I got to throw in the quick plug here, CBX Expo 24, it returns November 12th through 14th, third year running at the Talking Stick Resort in Scottsdale, Arizona. Attendees and exhibitors include TSDs, MSPs and resellers, trusted advisors and consultants, wholesale communications, cloud solution, business IT and security providers, all-inclusive ticket, grants everything the event has to offer, floor access, keynotes, educational sessions, top-notch networking events, and more. And for information on CBX, visit cbxexpo.com. Now,
and we're a platinum partner.
Yes, you're right. How could I overlook that, Glenn? Platinum partner, NHC. For more information, once again, cbxexpo.com. And from all of us at Channel Vision Magazine and our very good friends at NHC, everybody take care.
Thank you.
One another.
Bye-bye.